Welcome to What's the Truth podcast, where we aim to have real conversations that encounter biblical truth. Thank you for taking time to listen and support this podcast. We're glad to be hosting Brittany Herget today, and on this episode, we are going to be discussing the topic of parenting, specifically diving into the opportunities and challenges before parents today. Brittany, I know you have been serving at the church on staff for about a year now. Can you introduce yourself to the listeners as well as the role that you have here at the church?
Sure. So like Stephen said, my name is Brittany Herget, and I am the Kids Ministry Director here at Woolsey. I took that position about a year ago, a little over a year. Prior to that, I was serving in the kids ministries here at Woolsey, and then I've had the opportunity to kind of come on staff and lead the 4 different Woolsey Kids Ministries here at the church.
And you grew up in this community, if I know that correctly, right?
Yes, I did. I was baptized here at Woolsey Baptist Church quite a few years ago. I was married in Woolsey Baptist Church quite a few years ago now, too. And
don't say that because I married you. That means
it's been 10 years now. So
yep. Congratulations.
Thank you. So there was a time when my family and I were in Oklahoma City, but came back to Woolsey Baptist and the Fayetteville area about 5 years ago now, and have been here ever since.
Where did you go to college?
So I went to Georgia College and State University and had a degree in English literature. And then after graduation, my plan was to go into a master's program there for teaching. But instead, the Lord prompted me to apply to a program called Teach for America, where I got my teaching certification kind of on the job. And that took me to Oklahoma City in 2014. So I taught middle and high school there for a few years. And then after having my first 2 children, decided to move back here to Georgia, near both my husband and I's family.
Very good. Kids Ministry Director. What does that mean that you do?
So a lot of things. I think more than I anticipated, probably more than the average person might think. But I oversee 4 kids ministries here at Woolsey Baptist. So that includes B4 Zone, which is for birth through 4-year-olds or pre-kindergarten students. Also K1 Bridge, which is a ministry that serves kindergarteners and first graders during the worship service, during the sermon portion of the worship service. I oversee K5 Zone, which is a program that instructs kindergarten through 5th grade students during the Connect Group hour of Sunday mornings, and then also Roots, which is a Wednesday night event that serves birth through 5th grade students, teaching them to know, love, and follow Jesus. So kids ministry, day-to-day tasks, helping to secure volunteers, curriculum that we're going to use in terms of instruction for both Sundays and Wednesdays, special events that community outreach, such as the Easter egg hunt, fall festival, things like that, as well as summer programming and all those sorts of things. Equipping parents through resources and trainings to help them to be the primary faith trainers that we desire them to be.
So you do a lot, a whole lot. What's your vision for the kids ministry at Woolsey Baptist Church?
Yeah, so our main purpose is to lead boys and girls to know, love, and follow Jesus. And what that looks like practically is teaching the Bible in age-appropriate ways each and every time the children are here in our building. We also want to involve students, that's middle and high schoolers. We want to involve older adults. We want to involve parents in training these children as the volunteer faith trainers, while ultimately knowing that the parents are the primary faith trainers of their children. So we want to equip parents to do that in their homes. So that would be the primary goals of our ministries.
That's great. Parents are facing challenges and have for thousands of years. I'm sure every generation has its own unique challenges. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges that parents are facing today?
So I think that one of the challenges that parents face today is just the prevalence of technology. Their students or children are seeing that from a really young age, and that can be problematic in the things that they're exposed to. But I think it's also difficult for parents, thinking about the pressure to conform to a societal standard that is very in your face, thinking about social media. And I think we're bombarded with the way that our children are supposed to behave. And so we have this standard that might not look like what our children are really doing on a day-to-day basis. And so you feel this pressure and tension, and which can lead to anger, to frustration, bitterness, and resentment. And I think, that of our generation or our children's generation, that's one of the primary concerns.
Something on social media that's the perfect picture, right? Like the vacation or the clean home or whatever. When the reality is that's just not life. Mm-hmm. And I know that is just a constant pressure that parents face. Is there anything else that you think parents are facing today, whether it be with education or technology or time management, that you think or you hear in your work that, and this is a really big weight that moms and dads are carrying?
I don't know that it's new, but I do think that time management is a really challenging thing. I think the older your children get, or even when they're young, there's all these activities that you're trying to kind of notch off or check off as the weeks progress, and church becomes a lower priority. And so when children are not in church week in and week out, families are not, it becomes easier and easier to just skip again and again and again. And I think that one of the opportunities that we as a church have, as a kids ministry have, is just to live out this idea of gospel community, where we're parenting together, where we're living together and encouraging one another. Mm-hmm. And if you are not here regularly, you miss out on those opportunities to engage with like-minded families, like-minded parents, to just be encouraged and maybe tune out what the world says, what social media says when you're living face-to-face like that. So yeah, time management or just activities, all the things.
You work and your husband works, and I'm sure a lot of other parents with preschoolers or elementary age children work. How do you guys manage your schedule in your family, and how do you make church a priority?
We don't always manage it well. I don't think I said this, but I'll share about my family and the kids that I have. So we have 3 daughters. My husband Matthew and I have 3 daughters. Our oldest is 7. Our middle is 6. And then our youngest is just now 11 months old. And so kind of have elementary schoolers, a baby, soon to be preschooler. And so feel pulled in kind of 2 different directions, which is not unique to our family. I'm sure that most families listening, a lot of the families in our church, that is the case. And add into that maybe middle and high schoolers. And so when you're pulled in different directions, what we try and do is have a calendar and have a schedule. Try and talk through at the beginning of the week, like what's our week going to look like? Are you going to take one girl here while I take another girl here? And our schedules quickly fill up. But I think one way that we are prioritizing attendance at church is just kind of limiting the activities that our children participate in, knowing that we want to make church attendance a priority, or just availability even. I think when we schedule our weeks so full, we lose the opportunity to be spontaneous and gathering with other believers and other families, or maybe even seeing needs and meeting them. Like I hear of somebody who needs a meal made, is struggling, they maybe had surgery, or a new mom, or whatever it looks like. If our weeks are so full with band practice, piano practice, soccer practice, all of that other stuff, where's the room to serve in that way? And so really in our family, we've committed to one extracurricular per child per season or semester. And so that might look like right now for our oldest two, a Tuesday night event and a Thursday night event, but trying to leave open our Wednesdays and our Sundays to engage in what's going on here at the church.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the phrase earlier, gospel community. What does that mean? What does it look like? And how have you experienced that in your life?
Yeah. So I think gospel community really looks at Acts when believers shared all things in common and really lived together in that way. And I think that I first experienced that in Oklahoma. So we went to a church there that was in Oklahoma City and met together in one another's homes on a weekly basis. So rather than a typical Sunday school or community group, connect group, we called that missional family. And so we met together weekly in homes during the week, in addition to Sunday mornings. And I think that just fostered this environment and this attitude of all things are in common. We're studying the Bible, we're eating together, we're celebrating together, doing just the natural rhythms of family life with others. And I think that was really eye-opening and impactful for us, especially as new parents. So that's when we had our first child. Walking alongside other more experienced parents was helpful to us who had no real idea what discipline looked like because we hadn't had children before. And even as a baby, I remember looking at others who were a little bit farther down the road and seeing them interact in their home with their children. And that was just maybe not something that you would see in a church setting or at a school setting in any other situation.
Yeah, so, that's great. And I guess if I'm putting the pieces together correctly, this type of gospel community is very difficult, if not impossible, if someone it has a full calendar, right? Like every night of the week, they're committed to here or there. It's very difficult to have that community. Very
challenging. And I know that in different seasons, it is difficult or exceptionally challenging to even say no to these things when you have many children or you have family commitments and that sort of thing. But yes, I think it's important to schedule time in for this community.
Another challenge that I hear parents talking about today and probably have talked about for centuries is discipline. How do you discipline your children? What's the right way? What's the wrong way? What does the Bible say? What do other parents say? Am I going to hurt my kids long term if I do this? Or if I don't do it, am I going to set them up for better success? So many questions on this topic of discipline. What has been helpful for you and your family? What have you learned from others? Share a little bit about this topic of discipline, please.
Yeah. I think it takes a lot of prayer. Just praying for our children, for eyes to see how, or I guess direction rather, from the Lord. I think that we can turn to Scripture and see how He says that discipline is important. A loving parent will discipline their child. But practically, I think that I've learned a lot through others, watching others in their home discipline their children. So even you, Stephen, I remember in our premarital counseling, watching you interact with your children and kind of redirect them, but in a way that made them think about who disobedience dishonors, or let's think about why you are disobeying, really getting to the heart issue. And I think that even praying with your child after a moment of disobedience, when they are acting out, like as part of this process, let's focus on maybe why we are doing this. We have a sin nature, and we want to ultimately ask forgiveness from maybe the sibling that we hurt, but also the Lord in not honoring another person as He's called us to. And so I think seeing others discipline their child and kind of learning from that has impacted our own parenting. We are certainly not perfect, and I feel like every child is different. So maybe we were even speaking with another family about this the other day. What worked with our first in terms of discipline strategies did not work with our second. And who's to know what it will look like disciplining our third. It might be different than both of those. But I think having a willing and teachable spirit as a parent, admitting when we ourselves are wrong, maybe in our correction. You said something about, is this going to permanently mess my child up? I think being quick to apologize to our own children or say, mom overstepped and I responded in anger and I'm sorry, because that's not the way that we speak to one another, or that's not the way that we should react. Hopefully, with the Lord's help, that impacts our children in the long run. So
yeah, well said. Well said. Let's talk a little bit about technology as another challenge or threat that is facing parents today. Again, like discipline, it's been around in different forms or fashion, but the change of technology has accelerated exponentially over the past couple of decades. I remember when our first child was born, my wife and I both had a cell phone. Neither of them were smartphones. When our fourth child was born, cell phones, particularly smartphones, were ubiquitous. Everyone had them, and there was technology around every corner, whether it was a tablet or a phone or some other screen. How have you and your family dealt with the technology issue with children? How have you leveraged it for good, and how have you been cautious about protecting against it taking over, dominating your life and your children's lives?
I think that was a challenge, especially when I did go back to work. So I don't know if I shared this, but after teaching for several years in Oklahoma, I decided to stay home with my oldest when she was born, and was home with them until they went to kindergarten. And so I just recently took this job, and honestly, that prompts me to be on my phone more and more, whether that's communicating with others or answering emails and all of that. And I can see that even in the past year, it's been more challenging to keep them from that. So at 6 and 7, my oldest, 2 girls, are not exposed to technology at school quite yet, in terms of a tablet in front of them each day, a computer that they're working on and given free rein to the internet. But how frequently do they see mom with a phone in front of her face, with a computer in front of her face, and are very interested in doing the same. And so it's challenging, but I feel like there's got to be boundaries that you set. Maybe, at meal times, like we are not going to be in front of a screen. After dinner, before bed, we're going to engage in a family game, trying to face-to-face without that screen in front of them or in front of me. Like I need to turn it off. If there's a phone call that comes, it can wait. If there's an email that needs to be answered, it can wait. So I think that that's one way that we've kind of set boundaries. But I know that our children are young, and that it will only get increasingly challenging. And so I think that one way we can best prepare for that, though, is seeking the advice and counsel of others who are a little bit farther along. And one way that I think that our church is really answering this challenge or opportunity, I guess, we have the opportunity to learn together. And so in the past few years, we've offered a connect group specifically for parents at the beginning of each school year. And I think that, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Stephen, but 2 years ago, the topic was technology, and meeting with other families who are in different life stages and learning and growing with them is one way to make lasting change in your own family and parenting.
Yeah, well said. I want to ask one other challenge, and it deals with finances. Very few young families have a lot of excess cash, right? I mean, maybe grandparents do, or maybe there's a few families here or there that do, but for the most part, young families are living on a budget and they're controlling what they're spending. And probably since COVID, with inflation and groceries costing more and going out to eat costing more, things have maybe gotten a little bit tighter, if not a lot tighter for some families. How have you, in your own home, taught your children about finances, and what have you and your husband learned about just working through budgets and managing those things? And then finally, what does that look like when it comes to church? I mean, is there any value in teaching children to give to the church or to be generous to other people? Share a little bit about that.
That's a tough one.
You're well equipped to answer the question.
I don't know.
Kids ministry director.
I should be, but I'm thinking of something that my oldest said to me last week about a Chick-fil-A gift card that she thought was like a credit card or just free money. Like, if we have this, we can just go to Chick-fil-A anytime we want to. And it's like, well, we have to instill in them that this money does run out. So yes, we have been given this gift card. We have this gift. We can go, but there is a finite limit to it. Or even, I'm laughing. It was recently my middle daughter's birthday, and she received some money as a gift. And how much more they are not willing to spend their own money versus mom and dad's money. So kind of, it's interesting to watch those decisions play out in terms of, well, with mom's money, I want to do this and this and this. But with my money, like, I need to save it, or I have these goals that I want to save up for. So I struggle to think right now how we are doing it well in our own house. But I do think that it is very important for families and for our church as a whole to teach our children, to teach kids financial responsibility. It takes money to live, but we also want to have room for generosity. And so in the same way that I was talking earlier about our time, if we schedule all of our time up, we don't have the extra time to be generous or to serve others. And so I think in the same way, we have to really evaluate our budget and where am I spending my money? In addition to just rent or my mortgage payment and my grocery bill and all of those things, giving to the church or tithing, I guess. How can I budget in such a way that we can be generous to others? And so for my kids, I think that they certainly don't know our budget quite yet as a 6 and 7-year-old. But we do talk a lot about sharing with others. So maybe it's not a dollar amount in their head, but if we have, a surplus of things or even something that is really precious to them, can we think about somebody who might need it more or that would enjoy this thing, this gift? And so maybe in our own home, we haven't really crunched the numbers with our kids yet. And I'm sure that day will come. But it's more just an attitude of generosity. Like, let's think of somebody else who might need this more than ourselves.
Yeah, that's great. For the listeners that attend Woolsey Baptist Church, there are some boxes around the building, particularly and strategically, 2 of them are on the preschool and children's hallways. Let everybody know what those are for and how children can take advantage of that opportunity.
Yes. So we have a tithing box, an offering box on both the children's hallway, the K-5 hallway, and the B4 hallway. And that's just an opportunity for children to put into practice what we're called to do and to give back to the local church, to tithe. And so you saying that kind of prompted my memory of the Kids Bike-a-thon this past year. So at the end of each calendar year, our church gives money to the Lottie Moon mission offering, the IMB mission board, just to further the gospel. And so I think that that's something that they can do regularly, but it was really exciting to see back in February when the kids had this goal of several $1,000s that they wanted to raise for missions. And they did. They met and exceeded that goal. And so I think that that's one way that this year the church has really hammered home, I guess, that idea of generosity and raising money for something other than ourselves.
What excites you the most about kids ministry at Woolsey Baptist Church right now?
So one of our hopes and prayers is for numerical and spiritual growth. And I think that if you think of that in terms of breadth and depth or wide and deep growth, Woolsey Baptist Church has experienced great numerical growth in the past few years. And so I think that that's really exciting to just see the number of families and children that we are able to serve has greatly increased. But I think that even more exciting is the depth of growth that we're seeing. So in 2024, we had 7 children that were baptized. And so far this year, in 2025, we've had 4 that are baptized, and we have half the year to go. Mm-hmm. And how incredible is that, that we're not only seeing new children come, but we're seeing them make professions of faith and follow in the obedience to be baptized. Mm-hmm. And I think that is something that is really encouraging to me, but our church as a whole. Like when a second grader is baptized, how much of an impact does that have on maybe their parents if they do not know the Lord, or their older sibling, or just another church member? So yeah, that's something that's really exciting that's going on.
What resources does the church provide for parents, or maybe just on their own, that parents could access or look to, to help them in the journey of parenting? Yeah.
So I would definitely encourage parents to get plugged into a Connect group too, because that's where you're going to get the practical application or just the gospel community that we were talking about earlier. So that's one resource that's, I guess, a people resource, but not to be overlooked. And then also several of the ministries put out resources that help families do or participate in family worship. So specifically on the B4 Zone hallway, there's a B4 Zone calendar, which prompts families to memorize scripture together, to sing songs and hymns that they will hear in the worship on Wednesday and on Sundays, and also memorize big truths about God. So over a 2-year cycle, there is 24 questions, big truths that really get to the heart of who God is, and what his foundational or attributes are. And so I would encourage you, even if you don't have a preschooler, pick that up, because those truths are transferable to anyone. But also there's a parent resource wall, or I guess the book wall out in the Welcome Center that has lots of books and resources for parents and for children. So you can read those books with your children if you're working through or walking through a particular challenge or trial. There's certainly those that speak to that, but also just in general, parenting. And so I would maybe we could plug to the Parenting Connect group that's coming up. So it's a 4-week Parenting Connect group, and it's going to meet August 4th through the end of August. I don't know that date, but beginning on August 4th each week, and looking at just practical application of parenting today. And so that would be one great opportunity that you would have to get plugged in to a Connect group here at Woolsey. Your children will be well cared for and well taught during that same time frame. And hopefully that would just kind of jumpstart or our thinking on parenting.
Yeah. Well, Brittany, thank you for what you do at the church, and thank you for the example you and your family set for so many others. And thank you for the way that you give generously and pray consistently for other people. It doesn't go unnoticed, and I appreciate so much how you and Matt have just been what the Bible talks about. You have been blessed, and you are a blessing to others. So thank you so much. And thanks to our listeners for listening to What's the Truth. We appreciate your time as you hopefully prayerfully consider some of these things that Brittany has shared, and that they not only encourage you, but also inspire you. Well, thank you for listening to What's the Truth. We hope you have enjoyed this episode, and I encourage you to take time to like, subscribe, and share this podcast. As a reminder, we upload a new episode every other Tuesday, so be sure to stay tuned and check out those upcoming episodes.